And good afternoon, and welcome to a Wednesday episode of Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. I am Frank Granito, and joining me in studio today is Dave Stewart. Dave, how are you doing today?
Doing all right. We're back from vacation this week, so trying to ease my way back into work,
That seems to be the trend for a lot of our staffers right now, and it is a tough transition without a doubt. A lot of stuff on the docket for today, including some baseball updates on teams around the state, how they are doing. We've got some 7-on-7 action worth noting and a lot more. But let's start down on Farm Road at New Canaan High School. And the renovations on Dunning Stadium, Dave, have finally begun.
It's very, very interesting stuff. I was out there on Monday and Tuesday, and they're doing the tear-up of the field this week. The whole process should take about 3 to 4 weeks, so it shouldn't run into spring or fall preseason, so everybody should be out there for their camps and clinics and stuff. But you can see some of the pictures they're putting up here with the tear up of the field. It's a very interesting process what they go through for this. They have one vehicle that goes over it, kind of cuts it up. They have to vacuum the rubber out, the recycled tires and things like that, clean it up, get maybe 85-90% of the debris in there, the infill. Then they wrap it up. They have these giant white bags that are over by the school, as we can see right there. And basically what they do then is they package them up. A company called Target Technologies takes them, and they ship them to Malaysia, where they're cleaned again, they're vacuumed out again. They want to get all the residue out, and the turf is actually recycled into stuff like piping and furniture and all sorts of different things. So it's kind of a neat process that they're going through there.
There are great photos of it. It's really cool to see the way it's done. It was definitely a process that was overdue, to say the least.
Yes.
The turf went in back in 2005 in the fall, so it's had the expected turf life for just a football field is 8 years, maybe you stretch it to 10.
Yes.
You factor the fact that you're playing from from third grade through high school on that football field, just football. Then you've got soccer, lacrosse, field hockey, all these other sports. The turf had really run its course, but almost, not to have a sense of nostalgia, but a sad day seeing that first set of real turf at Dunning Field being torn up.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of people played on that field. A lot of people had great games, won championships, and a lot of big games against Darien there. So there is a sentimental part of this where you're seeing that actual turf that you were on, getting torn up and getting replaced. But in the long run, it's still Dunning Stadium. It's still the centerpiece. Really, it's remarkable because when they first put it in back in 97, 98 with Vin Iovino kind of headlining that, and Jim Dunning and Rodney Hawes, I think they envisioned it being a great sports center type deal for the kids in New Canaan and the high school, but it's really like a recognizable town landmark, whether you play sports or not now. And it's one of the more, outside of Waveney Park, it might be the most recognizable part of New Canaan.
It really is, and since 1998, New Canaan has been so successful there, specifically in football. They've lost only 18 games at home over that time period, and of course, back in 98, it was the true original AstroTurf.
Yes.
I can remember moving to town, and one of the coolest experiences was once a year you got to go and play a game on that carpet, as it was in every sense of the word. Mm-hmm. I was talking with some of the coaches down at New Canaan, Dante Carenti and Chris Silvestri, the offensive defensive coordinators. They were a little shocked that there wasn't an auction to sell off some of the field to some of the booster clubs, or that the number 23 retired for Pete Demerly.
Yes, yep.
That's obviously set on the 23-yard line, wasn't being preserved within the school.
That's an interesting fact. I was out there yesterday. I didn't see the 23. It was gone, and it was part of the turf that had already been removed, and I was curious as to what happened to it. Obviously, they're going to replace it with the new turf, but I was surprised they didn't take that one. At least if you're going to take one piece, take that and then preserve that. That would have been the piece to preserve.
The turf, of course, is just the first step in the full renovation project. As we take a look right here, you can see redoing the turf. They will do a new and expanded press box, adding more bleachers, a new concession building. So big plans for Dunning Stadium as well as Hawes Plaza right now, as New Canaan University, as it's becoming known, is starting to expand again.
It'll be great. And they actually have, it goes beyond Dunning Field too, because they have 3 phases. Actually, the first phase was supposed to be replacing the grass fields up by the water tower in Waveney Park, actually on the school side of it, with the turf, as you see right there. That kind of got tabled for a short period of time because of, as you were saying, the need for Dunning Field to be replaced. It had run its course. It was 11 years old, and 8 to 10 years is its lifespan. And they were a little beyond that, and there were a lot of signs that the turf was wearing down and wasn't performing as well as it had in the past. So they shifted things around. Dunning Field took priority at this point to fix what they have. And then after that, it'll be the turf and the concession stands and everything. And when it's finally done, I mean, it'll look awesome. It's all being done under the new Canaan Athletic Foundation too, which is a unique group which is going to be looking at, kind of modeled after the Darien Athletic Foundation, and they're going to be looking after the fields for youth leagues and the high school players, and just making sure the facilities are state of the art.
And that's a really good point. There's a great relationship between the youth league, the youth foundations, and the high school program, as a lot of the youth or board members are at the forefront of this project, realizing that, okay, we can help donate to Dunning, making that a part of our big picture. Mm-hmm. We'll get to use that. But ultimately, they're redoing those grass fields, which were not in any means in bad shape. Those were great grass fields. We saw them in use at the Grip It and Rip It tournament. But now it's 2 more turf fields that come into play for every organization in the town.
And I think that just goes into the fact that, if you look at grass fields and even turf, the fields are getting so much use now from soccer groups, beachside soccer or football teams and lacrosse. Everybody's using Dunning Field. Everybody's using the water tower turf. Everybody's using those grass practice fields. If you go over there on any evening, summer, fall, spring, you can probably find a team out there practicing. So they really do take a beating, and turf is kind of necessary in those cases, because the grass. I can remember when they played over at Stanley P. Meade Field over at Saks years ago. By the end of the season, that turf was so torn, or that grass was so torn up. It was just mud. If it got cold, it was like running around on a sheet of ice. So it did become a little bit dangerous as the season went along.
And it's something too that if you don't have a grounds crew set up just to monitor that, but let's say that Dunning is a grass field. I mean, look at what's happening at Trinity right now. They're the last school that's making the switch to turf from grass. If you don't have a grounds crew that's just devoted to maintaining that grass field, mm-hmm. It's almost impossible to save, even if it was just a football team practicing and playing on it any day.
That's right. There's so much maintenance that's involved in it that it's the turf saves you some of that trouble, and will keep you going, keeps it going forward. And there's a huge influx of kids. The population in the schools is expanding right now, and so there's going to be even more wear and tear, which is one of the reasons they took care of Dunning now before that biggest group gets there. Now that everything will be all set, and they'll move forward from that. It was very interesting talking to Jay, though. He said that when they were going through the process for the water tower field, they had experts there who looked at Dunning Field and pointed out what the signs of wear would be, like during lacrosse games, the rubber pellets, the infill was settling on top of the fibers and not sinking down into it. So you would see like black spots on the field, and that's just a sign that the fibers can't hold the infill anymore. So when it pops out, it just sits there. So the field gets uneven, and it's just not as safe anymore.
It wasn't. There were a couple of spots where you had to replace your divot after making a break.
Exactly.
I can remember from some of the stuff. You talked about how it's a 3 to 4 week process. It won't interfere with preseason camps for the fall teams. They actually timed it very well. Grip It and Rip It was set to be the last event hosted on it. Mm-hmm. The process started this previous Monday, but it's really a 3 to 4 day process of ripping up the old turf and
yes.
laying down the new turf, and then it's essentially 3 weeks of no one can be on this. You've got to stay away from it, let it all settle, and let it set, then we can start to work it in.
Exactly, and the biggest part of any turf field, the toughest part to deal with, is the foundation underneath, which is obviously already in place. They just have to make sure everything is okay with that, and then they can go about their business of putting the turf down.
So the first game for that field will be New Canaan hosting Ridgefield in week 2 of the football season. There's a strong chance we will be there to see the new unveiling of Dunning Stadium's new field. We will take a break here on Nutmeg Sports. When we return, Dave, I want to continue talking New Canaan with you as we look ahead to some 7-on-7 tournaments right here on the HAN Network.
For more than 50 years, Triple S has been Fairfield County's expert service for carpet, upholstery, and drapery cleaning. We provide the best in repairs and in-depth restoration, understanding fabrics and how to properly clean and restore them. Our staff will come to your home to clean your wall-to-wall carpet to perfection. We can also pick up your fine carpets and bring them to our facilities. With locations in Norwalk, Stamford, and Stratford, Triple S will get the job done fast, big or small. At Triple S, you can count on our people as well as our cleaning.
Find us at triplesclean.com or 203-847-8000.
I really wanted something that felt like a home. Coming from a big house, I wanted the feel of a home as opposed to a condo. My property taxes on my single-family home were close to $20,000 a year. Now that I've downsized and I'm in a townhome, and because of the condo tax laws, my fees have gone from $20,000 down to about $5,300 with the star exemption. There is no other townhome that compares in the area. This is where I want to be.
Have a sports injury or a slip and fall that needs immediate care? Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care gives you direct access to an orthopedic specialist fast, without an appointment. Biking, golf, tennis, soccer, whatever the sports injury is, sprain or fracture, Coastal Ortho Express can help. Coastal Ortho Express Urgent Care, open Monday through Saturday, now in 2 locations. The iPark building at 761 Main Avenue in Norwalk and 36 Old Kings Highway South in Darien. Or go to coastalorthoexpress.com, like them on Facebook.
I'm Denise DiGregoli, the host of The Drive on the HAN Network. Join me Tuesdays for some motivational, intelligent talk with a little humor as we visit with people who live their lives mindfully. Tune in to The Drive live on Tuesdays, 12:30, here on the HAN Network.
Give your day a jumpstart with the latest news, sports, weather, and more on Coffee Break, live on the HAN Network, weekdays at 11 a.m. Connecticut news doesn't get any more local than on Coffee Break.
And we welcome you back to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. Wednesday, July 20th episode. Dave Stewart standing in with Frank Granito today. Dave, we just talked about the renovation project down at New Canaan High School. I now want to transition over. The football team for New Canaan will be heading down to SUNY Stony Brook for their annual 7-on-7 tournament this weekend. It was no more than 2 weeks ago now that we got to get our first look at freshman Drew Pine and a little bit of the quarterback battle that's going on in New Canaan. I want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, the 7-on-7s obviously serve their purpose. It gets the kids involved. It gets the kids running plays that they're going to be running. The one thing you don't get to see is how they're going to function actually in a game situation with linemen coming at them and, you know, wanting to kill them and, you know, all that stuff. But what I saw there was I had the opportunity to see Spencer Williams on a couple of drives, James Cravato on a few, and Drew Pine on 2. You know, it was very interesting. They all have their strengths and they all had their weaknesses. The drives that I saw, I thought James Cravato was throwing well downfield. He was throwing a few more passes downfield, and he was getting the ball there, if not entirely as accurate as he could have been. But it is a summer 7-on-7. Drew Pine was accurate, but I saw him throwing more short passes, maybe one deep ball, which was fine. And he did get him down the field and into the end zone twice on both of them. So that was pretty good. And then, of course, you got Spencer Williams in there, too. He was throwing more short stuff. So it's going to be it's going to be a very interesting quarterback battle, especially since one is a freshman and the other 2 are seniors.
It is, and you make a good point. Each quarterback with their strengths. I thought that Cravato does have the best arm strength working to his advantage. Pine is arguably the most accurate, has got great footwork in the pocket from what we saw. Spencer Williams has got every intangible you want in a quarterback, just maybe lacking a little bit of that arm strength. I don't think I would be surprised if week 1, when they go down to Trinity Catholic in the new stadium, if we're seeing 2 quarterbacks rotating on those first few series.
Yeah, Lou Marinelli's had this situation before where he's had a couple of guys, maybe one's younger, one's older, and he has shown no hesitation in going back and forth with the 2. In fact, when his son Johnny was on the team as a junior, he did that a lot. He had, I believe it was Mike Cavino was the starting quarterback, and Mike would play a lot of the first half, and Johnny would come out for a change of pace in the second half, and I tell you that most of those first drives in the second half that Johnny was in there for resulted in touchdowns, and the other team trying to react to a new quarterback and maybe something they didn't expect at that point. But he showed no hesitation going back and forth with kids when his son was involved, so I don't see why he wouldn't do that in this case too, if the need is there.
And Lou's motto and the team mantra has always been, seniors get the first shot, but the best players are going to play. Pine is old for a freshman, so he's coming in not as a just completely raw 15-year-old kid. He'll be right around turning 16, I think, by the end of the season. But he's got a lot of intangibles that they're hard to overlook, and he's been well accepted with that group. Would you be surprised if we saw him at some point in time this season as a starter?
Not at all, because as you said, out of all the quarterbacks, I'm sure he has the most raw talent from what we've seen. And I think the big thing is going to be transitioning to the high school varsity level, with the play where you're playing kids who, even though he's an older freshman, there's seniors out there who are about to go into college to play and are big kids and are big tough kids and be coming at him. And so you want to see how he handles that, and you want to see how he gets along with everybody. From the sounds of things, he is getting along with everybody. They're accepting him, and that's half the battle with a lot of football teams, because you can have as much talent in the world as you want. If there's dissension or any type of disruption, it can really have a bad effect on a team.
And New Canaan, unlike some of the other teams we've seen this summer, have not been involved as many 7-on-7s as, let's say, a Darien or a Greenwich or these other FCX teams. Grip It and Rip It was the first time we really got to see most of their roster. One player who was back that we haven't heard much of this summer, he's playing some lacrosse right now, was Jack Holzer, and I thought he was great for that team.
Jack Holzer's just a great athlete, phenomenal lacrosse player, going to be a great receiver at New Canaan this year, and probably be their lead guy at this point. But yeah, I mean, you put, in that spread, you want to have your best athletes really at wide receiver. They're the guys who are going to get the ball. They're going to get yards after the catch. That's been New Canaan's forte over the years. They can throw the deep ball, but you get the ball to the guys, the open man, and that has more room to run. And they've had such a great run of quarterbacks, and a lot of the credit has to go to the wide receivers they've been throwing to.
And you look back to last year, you had a Kyle Smith who was going to come in. He played as a sophomore, played as a junior. He was going to be the definitive number one. You could argue that's Ryan O'Connell this year, someone who's coming back with a lot of experience. Does Jack Holzer have that ability to be a Peter Swindell type of player, who was a big-time lacrosse guy? You knew him as a kicker, and then all of a sudden he comes in and he's a very formidable number two receiver on the opposite side of Smith.
There's no reason he couldn't be. He basically everything's opened up in front of him right now, and like I said, he's a great athlete. And depending on who they go with the quarterback, you hope he has a connection with one or two of those guys, or maybe all three. And I could definitely see him coming out. Peter Swindell would be a perfect example of a guy that he could aim to be like. And they're losing a lot, and obviously not having Michael Collins around, that would hurt any team. But there's enough there. There's enough back that's going to be they're going to be fine.
So we will keep an eye on New Canaan, how they do this weekend at their 7-on-7 tournament. I want to quickly transition before the break from one Marinelli to another Marinelli down there in Greenwich. It's Johnny Marinelli. The Greenwich football team was just at the Northeast 7-on-7 regional tournament. They finished in the top 4 for that tournament. Dave, this is the 4th time this summer this team has finished in the top 8. They finished 3rd at the Daniel Han tournament, 6th at the Fordham tournament, and 8th at Grip It and Rip It. Has Johnny Marinelli got this system figured out right now in year 2?
I think as you go along, you're going to see his system working in more. I always felt like the 3rd year is the year when you really see the effect of the coach being there, because he's been with those kids for 2 to 3 years, and but the 2nd year, there's in a place like Greenwich where you have so many kids in the school population, and I think he had more than 200 kids showing up for the playing in the spring game this year. I mean, that's a lot of talent to choose from, and you got to figure that Johnny's going to figure out a way to work with that. Got his feet wet last year as the head coach. Got into some big games. They had a really tough schedule, and they've got another really tough schedule. They're playing all the top opponents in the FCAC this year, and so it's going to be it'll be a tough schedule for them. But there's no reason Greenwich couldn't be a contender this year.
And it's no disrespect to the players from last year's team, but there seemed like there was a little bit of turmoil in the coaching transition, going from Coach Albanizio over to Johnny, and Johnny, I wouldn't say disrespected a lot of their traditions, but he came in saying, we're going to rewrite history here. We're going to reestablish ourselves as a power. It seems like year two, those kids have really bought in and are big fans of it.
Yeah, and Johnny's got a good rapport with the younger players because he is a younger coach. And, there's two ways you can go when you have a new coach coming in. I feel like you can either build on the traditions that are there if necessary, or you can tear it down and build something new. He chose the latter route, and I think it's going to start to pay off for him this year.
And I'll see if Eric Gendron could put the picture of the captains from Greenwich on the screen one more time here. I've got to ask you, Dave, what is your opinion of the incorporation of neon to the Cardinals?
It's an interesting look. It seems like the trend has now been either neon, which is seems to be Johnny's favorite, or camouflage in a lot of cases, which New Canaan baseball used on their uniforms a couple of years ago. I'm not sure I like the camouflage. I'm more a traditionalist, but hey, whatever helps you win, it's a good thing.
Either way, the Cardinals are fully invested in the neon, and it seems to be working for them right now as they start to figure some things out. We will take a quick break. Johnny Marinelli actually will join us next week to talk about the 7-on-7 experiences, so we look forward to having him on and talking about that. We'll be right back to Nutmeg Sports on the HAN Network with some baseball updates and a little bit more around the state.
Keep your future star active and happy this summer at Future Stars Sports Academy camps and clinics. The Academy is offering sessions throughout Fairfield County. Sign up for a week of basketball, cheerleading, football, or a multi-sports camp. At Future Stars Academy, children learn the fundamentals while under the supervision of qualified coaches. And what sets the Academy apart is its special Lessons of Life sessions, teaching values and focusing on building self-esteem, friendships, and honesty. Located at Sports Center Connecticut in Shelton and in Sports in Trumbull. Register online at FutureStarsSportsAcademy.com.
Warm weather, light breezes, boats are in the water. There's no better place to celebrate summer than the Dock Shop. Whether in Darien at 51 Tokenique Road or Westport at 609 Riverside Avenue, the Dock Shop is where you'll find everything you need to kick off summer. From the latest summer apparel to the newest fishing tackle, the Dock Shop will help you get the most out of your next beach day or harbor cruise. At the Dock Shop, you'll find a wonderful selection of items made in the USA and right here in New England, all with a distinct nautical flair. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the coastal lifestyle, this is a unique place to shop. DockShop.com.
Walter Stewart's Market in New Canaan is your time-saving local shopping destination for the best of spring. Find many of your favorite products, from great specials on everyday items to the freshest organic produce, artisanal cheeses, and grass-fed steaks. Drop off your knives to be sharpened, grab a beautiful bouquet of spring flowers, and stop in next door for a wine tasting. Plus, their personable staff is always ready to lend a helping hand. So stop in to Walter Stewart's Market, 229 Elm Street today, or shop online at stewartsmarket.com.
I'm John Kovach. I'm a newspaper editor. I'm a high school football coach. I'm a television presenter. And I want you to love fishing as much as I do. Tune in to Yankee Fisherman, Thursdays at 1 on the HAN Network. It's like going to the tackle shop without leaving your office.
And we welcome you back to Nutmeg Sports here on the HAN Network. Frank Granito and Dave Stewart in studio today. And Dave, let's take a look at what some of the remaining teams in baseball are doing from around the state. First of all, in the Section 1 Double L opener of Legion Baseball, Stanford North took down Milford National 5-3 last night, powered by 3 home runs off the bats of Jordan Nunez, Roderick Olson, and Jack Hawk. Stanford led by as much as 5-0 before surrendering a couple late runs. Stanford has now got tonight off, and while Milford will look to avoid elimination against District 2 champion, that's Fairfield American. And at the older level in Stanford, at the 18U, Babe Ruth All-Stars are now in the New England Regional Tournament for the 7th time in the last 10 years, Dave.
Nice trend.
And it's
good history.
We saw a young Stanford team at the 13U level in the championship. There was a Stanford 15 team that lost in the state championship. Stanford baseball right now, especially in the Babe Ruth level, is really at a high.
Well, Stanford baseball, Stanford's always been a baseball town. I'm a Stanford guy myself, and there's a great history there, and all those teams, they can put together a good Legion team. Most of the time, if you're putting together a good Legion team, maybe your Babe Ruth team suffers, or vice versa. If you have a Legion team, and in Stanford's case, they can put together whatever the number of teams they want and still put together a good run.
And it really has been great to watch, especially this summer. The games we've seen, it's been very competitive. It's great baseball. For that 18U Babe Ruth team, they will begin play in Worcester, Mass. Tonight at 5:30 against Western Massachusetts. Should Stanford win that game, it will play New Hampshire on Thursday at 5:30, and if they lose, they will drop into the losers bracket of the tournament and will play on Friday against a team to be named later. Already up at the New England Regionals are the Norwalk Cal Ripken 10-year-old team, who picked up another win on Monday night to advance to their semifinals. In Uxbridge, Massachusetts, the defending New England champs have played 20 innings of baseball, Dave, and they are yet to surrender a run. And I want you to take a second and let that sink in. 20 innings of baseball at the regionals, and they have not surrendered a run yet.
Doesn't get much better than that. There's very little room for improvement there. That's an incredible performance, and see if they can keep it up.
It's a very young team. They're obviously only 10 years old, but they won the regionals as 9-year-olds. They will be eligible to go and play in the World Series should they win this tournament. They will play tonight against Cranston, Rhode Island, for a chance to advance to the championship. Dave, I want to throw it over to you. We'll stick with Norwalk baseball. You've got a story on a Norwalk Legion team.
Yeah, it's unfortunately for the it's an unfortunate story for the Norwalk Senior American Legion team. They were forced to forfeit all their wins this year. Apparently, they had an unnamed player, or a player who got in an argument with the umpire and was ejected from a game. I don't have the name of the player. Actually, a lot of this I saw in the Norwalk Hour, so they did not point the finger at that player. But so basically, by getting ejected from the game, he got an automatic 2-game suspension. A family member of his calls the state commissioner to complain. Turns out his residence is in Florida, which makes him ineligible for the team. All their wins go out the window, and it's an 0-27 record for Norwalk, and an unfortunate turn of events there.
It is very unfortunate, and I like that the Hour didn't name names. It's tough to pin that on the kid. I don't even think he probably realized what was happening, but you feel for the other members of that team after such a great summer to have something like that bring it right to a halt.
Yeah, I'm sure they had no idea that was the case, and it reminds me of what happened with Darien girls tennis violating CIC rules by having a player who played in too many tournaments to be eligible for the state tournament, and they ended up forfeiting out of that. I'm sure the player involved had no idea that was the rule or that was going on, and so you feel for the kid, you feel for the teammates. It's just a tough way to go out, and how do you explain that to the kids? But, it happens, and rules violation. The rules are there for a reason, so somebody should have been aware of that. Maybe at the coaching level, things like that. But as far as the players are concerned, it's up for the coaches to be in charge of that stuff.
That's tough. That's going to do it for baseball. We'll stay with Dave right now. You've got a story on a couple of local lacrosse superstars who are about to make a big jump, hopefully.
Yeah, superstars is putting it mildly with Sarah Manley and Elizabeth Miller. Elizabeth Miller is a rising sophomore at Boston College. Sarah Manley graduated this spring. Both have been invited to try out for the 2016-17 U.S. Women's National Lacrosse team in Sparks, Maryland, early next month. It's going to be 105 players involved. They'll pick 36 out of that, and they'll be practicing with the teams leading up to the Federation of International Lacrosse Women's World Cup in England next year. That 36 will eventually be whittled down to about 18, and we'll bet the best to Manley and Miller, and making a bid for that. Sarah Manley is actually they're 2 of 5 players from Boston College who did receive invitations there. So Boston College is being represented at the tryouts, and Sarah Manley, what can you say about her? Great high school career, fantastic career at Boston College. She, in her career at BC, she ranks 3rd in career points with 255 and goals with 173, and 4th in assists with 82. So just a stellar player.
She was a 2-time to Wharton finalist. I can remember watching her play as a freshman in high school. And Sarah Manley had never picked up a lacrosse stick in her life. Kristen Woods convinced her, we can make it work for you. 2 days after having a stick in her hand, she is named to the varsity team, started on that team, and it was just the most pure display of athleticism I think I've ever seen, watching her run up and down the field. It was truly incredible. So we do wish both of them the best of luck. Finally, with some basketball news, Sacred Heart alumni Bill Bano was just named as an assistant coach for the Indiana Pacers. Bano started at the University of Massachusetts with his playing career before transferring to Sacred Heart, where he graduated in 1985 as an All-American. Bano has spent time both coaching at the collegiate and professional level, including head coaching positions with UNLV from 1995 to 2000 and at Loyola Marymount for 2008 and 2009. Bano has spent the last 3 seasons with the Toronto Raptors. Dave, that is going to do it for this episode of Nutmeg Sports. I want to thank you for being on. We will have you back next week, and I'm looking forward to talking Connecticut Open golf with you.
That'll be good. There's a few FCAC players involved in that, and a few graduates of FCAC golf that are going to be playing in that. So it's going to be very interesting. And as we were talking before the show, Woodway Country Club is just a great course, beautiful place.
That tournament will be hosted at Woodway Country Club on Monday and Tuesday next week. We wish all of our former FCAC players and current ones the best of luck in that tournament. That's going to do it for this episode of Nutmeg Sports. For Dave Stewart, I'm Frank Granito. I want to thank you for watching, and don't forget Coffee Break tomorrow at 11 a.m. with Kate Chaplensky. Have a good afternoon.